sheesh. Got the anger issues.
Yeah, I know it. Wow.
Who's in charge?
I'd like to call to order Public Works and Engineering for April 26th. We have 3 members present this morning.
Move to consent. Wait a minute, move to accept, sorry.
Second.
Agenda, Mr. Johnson?
I believe it's ready for your approval, Mr. Chairman.
Right down to debate. Of Matt.
I'm gonna take the first one. I'm actually asked Mr. Prather to come up. We're working on some improvements out at our Dfax building that, we currently lease to Dfax. Mr. Prather's got a couple of projects. He's gonna tell you about one.
Good morning, gentlemen. How y'all doing?
Morning.
So as Mr. Slaughter said, we are piecemealing together some renovations and upgrades at Dfax. If y'all know where this facility is, it's across from the sheriff's campus. Pre-engineered metal building that was constructed in the 90s. They've been using for quite some time. So we are going in and initially we're doing some landscaping and some removal of trees around the facility to allow some airflow, natural light, and to most importantly get rid of the leaves and the debris in the gutters that's caused some moisture issues. Inside, we're going to be doing new paint, new flooring in part of this contract. The other contract that not the other contract, but facility management's going to be doing some new ceiling, some new lights. We're also going to be doing some roof work, repair, patching, resealing of that, new gutters, downspouts. So really trying to put some lipstick on the pig here. This contract's for $92,000. We received some quotes from contractors, local contractors for this work. Our low quote was R.D. Brown in the amount of $92,000. We've been in contact with them. They're ready to roll. So staff recommends approval of the contract or the proposal for R.D. Brown to do interior renovations.
Said something about roofing or whatever, and I've heard in the past that there was some out there. I don't think that's R.D.
Correct. Right.
We had that in another contract. That's another one that we've already approved. It's a $40,000. It was a $40,000 roofing job that's already moving forward. We took it out because it was too expensive in this contract. We separated them.
We did some investigative work up there, went through the attic space to look at HVAC units to see if there were issues there, but we determined that the joints and the penetrations were what caused the leaks, so we're redoing gasketing, filling parapet walls, copings, that kind of thing.
I remember at one point, we tried to get them to move into the annex.
And the state wouldn't allow it.
And then there was a discussion about replacing the building. So we're not we're gonna just rehabilitate it. We're not gonna rebuild it.
Yeah, we talked about potentially moving them in the next SPLOST, potentially finding some land and building them another building. But the state wasn't interested in then moving. I think the local Department of Family and Children's Services was, but the State Properties Commission slapped our hand with that. So we just figured we'd leave them right where they were. If they're comfortable there, we'll leave them there. Regardless of who's in that building, we need to have some renovations. And if we can ever move them out.
Bear with me, I'm just making sure we're not spending $250,000 to renovate and then build another one.
Well, that was my point. If we ever do move them out, we already have plans to expand the fire department training center over into that facility, on that side of the road. So we'd repurpose that building. We would need to do it anyway. That was
something that state properties can require us to do.
no.
Move to consent.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one I have for you is an intergovernmental agreement with the Development Authority. This is to develop the next section of roads out at the White Oak Business Park. Development Authority has the money. They pay for the design. They have the money for construction. During the construction, the county will be overseeing it. If the Development Authority were to bid it out, we'd still have our inspectors out there. To make things a little easier, flow a little better, give a little more expertise over the contract. Robbie has asked that we enter into an agreement that we actually bid the project for the Development Authority. Pay all costs. We just provide the manpower to bid out. We are going to be inspecting anyway, so there's no cost to us there. We were already going to realize that cost. This is an IGA for us to bid his project at the Development Authority's cost.
I have a couple of questions. A lot of concern out there now with the traffic that's going in. Park. Obviously, we're not expanding the roads, without thinking. So will the bridge improvements price for care of what we, growth of the business part and going in? A lot of questions of the zoning we had, talking about the best way, a roundabout, so how is all of that going to be? No, not in this.
This is this is inside the park,
This
right?
is inside the park,
Right.
but obviously, the 221 improvements will need to be made if stuff that we're approving, talking about approving today, forward.
Yeah,
bridge-
So
to
when
add
are
on,
we, the question is, I guess, when are we gonna address that? When are we gonna start looking at? We always getting shot at and accused of, we're not thinking forward and we're not addressing the issue. Well, let's don't create issues, not gonna address the whole package.
and to add on, the lane shift isn't going to be accomplished by Gdot until 1 July.
I have a meeting at 11:30 today to get an update on that project with the head of the TIA office, so I can give you a better answer this afternoon on what their new schedule is. But yes, the last number they gave us was July 1 was when the new bridge was gonna have traffic on it. Project not complete, but new bridge engaged, July 1. I'll give you an update this afternoon if that has not changed.
Just saying, we'll probably need that information today.
And there's also some discussion about as we expand White Oak Park, I've had discussions with Robbie about potential of getting additional ingress egress there. So it's gonna, as the park expands, that will not always be the only entrance in and out of that park. There's a vision to actually spread that out a little bit.
Well, we need to take into consideration applicant that came before us previously thought that their needs were a roundabout because of the way the site distance and that. The other side of the road, the site distance may not be the same problem. I think you and I discussed that the other
Correct.
day.
That's right.
We need to address both sides of the road, whatever we do,
Absolutely.
however we do it.
Yeah, so as you're very aware, DOT does not let you do anything unless you have the numbers to back it up, the traffic numbers. So the signal, we talked about a signal, it does not meet for a signal at this point. Amazon has reached out, we've had meetings with Amazon and DOT discussing that signal. They're constantly monitoring those traffic numbers. If the numbers do hit where a warrant could be satisfied by Atlanta, I think Amazon's willing to move out on that. I can't speak for them, but I know they've shown a lot of interest into it. I don't know if they'd write the check or not, but when it comes to a roundabout, you have to look at your traffic analysis. One leg is overloaded, a roundabout will not function properly. So we need to make sure we look at the balance of traffic, who's coming out of the east side of the roundabout versus the west side versus north, south, and there's a lot of analysis has to go into that. So per Gdot standards, roundabout is the first thing you have to look at. You have to study that roundabout and then show that it will not work before they let you move to a signal. Kyle, that hadn't changed, has it? So the roundabout will be the very first thing Gdot's gonna make everybody look at before they let us look at the signal.
Want to make sure that we're
Right.
all property owners into consideration.
Absolutely.
Talking about the church?
Yes. Requirement that wanted us funding and we weren't.
Right.
For them to fund timing for all of it would seem to be same time, to me.
Yeah, I had a conversation with their pastor, and they have an engineer who is working on the problem as well, and
They haven't started yet, have they?
no, they haven't. They're just doing preliminary, estimates, and they would like to meet with us, and that's probably in our interest to meet with them, and as that matures there, make sure the traffic is good. Move to
I
consent?
don't believe so. Let's get one.
Second.
So moved.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Morning, Stacy.
First item I have for y'all today is, we bid out back in March, upgrades to our laydown yard for new structures to cover, materials, lighting out there that we need for a laydown yard. And the bid came in over budget at $802,000. $800,000. We budgeted just slightly less than 700,000. There was one line item that was 145,500 that we budgeted about 50 in our budget for, and we thought it was just way overpriced. So in negotiations with the contractor, we did remove that line item and got the price down to $656,500, which is within budget. And staff recommends awarding the project to R.D. Brown Contractors.
Seems like from memory, and I may be wrong, there was for us to have that covered that supplies that we're still not achieving.
That's only a portion of what we're doing. We would like to have that building, but I do believe it is. We would like to have that covering, but $145,000 just to put a covering over some dirt, sand, seems extensive. I think we could probably come back later and do that for less than 50.
I know we agreed on to expand the laydown yard. Is this the bid for that, to do the work?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Move to consent?
Mighty expensive. Be able to lay stuff down. Am I wrong?
Yes. We had budgeted $693,000 for the project, so we're within that original budget that we had planned on.
Second, I still have $100,000 for a laydown yard. I mean, what am I missing?
But there are
They gonna do?
there are structures on this facility.
Yeah.
So we're actually building structures there. There's a storage facility for materials. There's an office space out there. So it's not just a grading of a site. We're actually making this site a functional site to be able to operate that laydown yard.
We're lighting it so we can, water lines like to break at night, so we're lighting it so we can see to get to our materials, to make use of that during the evening also.
Really building a new campus out there. Small, but storage
Okay.
campus.
So moved.
The next item I have is a contract with Blair Construction for the Crawford Creek Sewer Phase 2 project. We've already completed one phase of this project, and we're doing a second phase. As seems to be going with everything, bid prices, lead times, materials are hard to get, so everything's very high. We had budgeted $1.9 million for the job, and the bid came in about 1.6 over budget. So we've negotiated with Blair, worked some things out, and we've gotten another $600,000 out of the project, but it is still about $1 million over budget. We removed the bore under I-20 and came back to a road in a subdivision to terminate the project. But it is a needed project because we do have some issues with the sewer. We have a lot of I&I in this area, so we're just gonna stop another project we had planned and use those funds to fund this project. And so staff recommends awarding this project to Blair for $2,886,909.
Move to consent.
Second?
The last item I have is an update or a complete redo to our billing software. We currently use a legacy AS400 system. It's an older system that's custom made specifically for us. So we have to get people that are specialty in this area. So we use, I believe, a CSRA computer now for this. But we want to go to a system that kind of brings us up into 21st century. We're not able to do e-billing now. We're not able to have apps on their phone for customers to be able to look at their usage. So we're proposing to go with a new billing software by Kayenta. We had Margaret Doss and her group. We had a multi-divisional group of people that went through and evaluated 17 different vendors to look at for software. And our group was from finance, IT, GIS, stormwater, big group of people went through and evaluated this, and they narrowed it down to Kayenta. It was very expensive. They were ready to go back in December, and the price kind of scared me. So I slowed it down a little bit and went through the same evaluation that they had gone through. And they had actually done a fabulous job with what they did, and I came to the same agreement. It was just pricey. It is a very expensive item. It's gonna cost us about $1.5 million to implement, and then it's about $350,000 a year for software maintenance, or for maintenance and I guess software licensing for the software. So we've allocated the money in the budget, $250,000 this year for the budget, and $1 million for next year in the budget to implement the software. It's gonna take about 18 months. But we feel like this is the best path forward for us in the software, and staff recommends approval of Kyanta's proposal.
How old is our current system? But
Margaret, do you know? Can you come up and, you went through the whole process. This was started before I hired on, so Margaret's been working on this a very long time. Margaret and Michael, but done.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's before my time, so
I'm
like
sorry?
1979 is when the current system was put in.
44 years? Move to consent.
This is a lot of money, and I appreciate that motion, Mr. Chairman. This is a lot of money, but we've been working on this project for 5 or 6 years with the water utility. AS400 is not even supported at the same level it used to, and if that system crashes, we're gonna lose all of our data and water customers. I mean, it's gonna happen one day. We knew it was gonna happen. We have got to move away from that antiquated system.
This, everybody, sooner or later will be able to track their lead.
Yes, sir. That's one of the things that we worked on extensively was the software integration. So this will integrate with Census FlexNet. It will integrate with CityWorks. Munis, it's not really an integration. It's we give you a file and you upload it, but finance is satisfied that it will work for them. So we wanted to make sure it would match all of our needs.
For higher water bill, they can go back and look and see that gallons during the middle of the night.
Yes, sir. They have, their customer portal was the best customer portal of all the ones that we looked at, of all that you could find. You can set reminders for yourself. You can look for stuff. You can get trends. You can tell it to let you know when you've used X amount of water in a month, kind of thing. It's a lot to it.
May have already said it, but it does sync with, because we went to the digital meters.
Oh, yes.
Yes, with the FlexNet meters, yes, sir.
How many of the are out there still?
We have
No,
about,
we were trying to bring up.
we're trying to get 100%, but we have about 65 to 70% of the system is FlexNet, on the FlexNet, or is this?
All the new stuff
Yes, sir.
going back in retro.
Yes, sir.
I think Mark and his guys are doing so many a year, aren't you, Mark? We do so many a year, and we're getting a lot of them done. Yeah, come on up. We're getting a lot of them done, but there's just so many. There's no way to do it all at one time.
So we've been trying to do this in-house, and the replacement, we're doing about 5,000 a year. Unfortunately, with supply chain issues this year, we've run into a stall on the smart points, and we hadn't been able to get delivery on those. The good side of it is that we do have meter production still taking place, and we've made sure that we've done extra to get meters in-house, in storage, in inventory, so that we don't slow down any kind of new installs. We have to back off of our change-out program or meter issues, and that's what we're doing in order to keep progress moving. But we were about 2 years out to get the rest of the system going. Now with Harlem being a new section, we've budgeted some money for next year to implement a couple of stations that are doing the umbrella read like we do with FlexNet, where we meet these gaps we do with truck reads until we can fill in those gaps with a perimeter. So hopefully, with the unknowns right now, we're probably 3, maybe 4 years out, depending on the stall. We're probably another few years out before we get everything into compliance with FlexNet. But it's all, for the most part, it is all working very well. And like Margaret said, FlexNet's the best customer portal opportunity that we have, and this will help a seamless move into customer service from that point of view.
And how many total customers do we have now, Mark or Margaret? Y'all know?
We're at 50,
We're-
51,
50,000
right at 51.
customers.
Yeah,
A lot of meters.
it's a lot of meters. And the thing about a lot of the meters that we were able to turn into FlexNet meters were the old brass style, because in the transition of technology, Census was able to introduce the technology into the old style brass meters. It was a registration issue that they turned electronic to keep it, sealed from water issues. And we've still got a lot of those brass meters that are out there that are positive displacement type devices. The new devices that read into the electronics are totally digital. So there is a change-out program that's blended with the new installs as well. So over time, blend it with the change-out and new installs, eventually everything will be totally digital.
Right.
But that's pretty much where we are.
It's great. It's good work.
All right, thank you.
Citizens can see this problems that they have
Right.
on their own is
It is.
tremendous for y'all.
That was one of the foundational issues that we wanted with Census. And Census, the good thing about it, as we move through the technology and the implementation of all this, they have been developing the customer portal. So it wasn't truly developed by any of the manufacturers when we started, but we knew that that was their vision and that was our vision as well. And so it's all really kind of coming to pass, and it's all going to come together pretty much in a timely manner to where everything else will be in position and place that we can make it all work. So it is. It'll be exciting where we can openly communicate with customers. They can see everything on their phones. They can trend. They can, trim their usage. It'll be total control on their part.
Yeah, I can testify personally, I had an awful leak over the winter, and I would have been relieved of that going a half mile up the end of my driveway just to look at the meter. So, yeah, it's enormously helpful, and I wouldn't have wasted the water. It would have been.
Well, we do like to keep revenues up in the winter, so.
Especially somebody who can't do anything about it.
Mama didn't get shoes that week.
That'll help tremendously with leaks. And that's really honestly where one of those things that FlexNet provides is an opportunity for us to show the customer, this is when your leak started, this is how bad it got, this is the total consumption. And it's helped diffuse a lot of mistrust to the degree that just because the meter says it, how do I know the meter's right? Well, when you trend data like that and you're able to show details, it helps diffuse and understand that this is really the reality of what happened, and here's when it started and here's when it stopped. So it is. This whole implementation has been tremendous from a customer service point of view.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
I've already motioned it.
Second.
Second. So moved. Morning, Mr. Titus.
Morning. We have a lot put before you today, but I will do my best to make it as possible. The first item we have for your consideration is a public hearing on the proposed establishment of a streetlight district, Jackson Heights Phase 1. Staff received a petition from the developer for the installation of streetlights. Georgia Power's cost proposals for the proposed district. With your permission, we'd like to open the public hearing.
Public hearing is now open for Jackson Heights Phase 1. Anybody like to speak? Bob, would you like to come forward, please? Name and address.
Bob Willis, 741 Royal Springs Lane. First, I'd like to say that I think they're doing a great job with that development. I walk it just about every day because it's next to my property. It looks very attractive, and I'm in favor of the street lights, so I would not be standing to oppose that. I would like to just make sure, of course, that it's, standard design and installation. I'm surprised that that didn't go in before sidewalks and sod and all that, so they're going to have to rip some things up, I think, to do the installation. But I'm in favor of that. I wanted to report that to the committee because I've, risen before to talk about Jackson Heights. I wanted to give you some positive feedback. The only things that we've had that have gone wrong is a lot of blowing debris from construction, and the plantings and the fences are not in yet, but I'm sure they're on schedule. I'd like to make one quick comment about the water thing, if I may. I recently, as a real estate agent, experienced a pinhole leak behind a toilet in a vacant home, and they called in naturally and found out exactly what time of night that started and how many gallons it was. But it caused $250,000 worth of damage. and resulted in an $800,000 house that is still not closed because of that. So if this user interface had some way to set an alarm so that it's not like after the fact we found out when the leak started, but the user could do something that they're monitoring their consumption and it went below, above X many gallons per minute or whatever, and it set an alarm on their phone, we could have saved $250,000 in that particular case for consideration. Thanks very much.
I'm seeing head shakes.
It does, it does.
Water utility folks back there.
Yep, it does.
Anybody else to speak? Close the public hearing.
Next item we have is a resolution for the same, 2213, to establish a light district in Jackson Heights Phase 1. First two readings to establish the streetlight district.
I do have concerns, and many times in the past, on the whole for like fund. One, I don't know how many phases in Jackson Hole, Jackson Heights. Seems like it's hitting the fund hard, and it's an issue. Don't have to
Yes, sir. So,
be sooner than later.
yes, sir. So staff's been working for several months now on updating the current streetlight procedure policy. We've been through several iterations, working with Georgia Power and Jefferson Power right now on those. We hope to have a draft to county management and the board within the next few weeks. It may take another iteration or two, have the final updated procedure before you to vote on. We understand there's a deficiency in the current policy, and we're working to solve that.
Power raise their rate. How do you know that? Power.
I could look into it, but I do not know.
They typically notify us, I think it was, I forget exactly, they did let us, where anytime they do a rate increase, they do something.
Public Service Commission has to approve it, right?
But we hadn't raised the streetlight fees, I think, since we implemented the streetlight fees.
And that's part of this exercise, whether that fee needs to go.
Currently $60 per lot per year. Your number crunching there, to make this one break even on a year-to-year basis, it needs to be $80 a lot, just for this neighborhood. To cover the upfront cost, we need to charge $100 a lot, and break even after 10 years. In a whole, for 10 years, charged $100 per lot on just this.
With the new procedure that we're putting together, we're looking at having the developer cover all the upfront costs. That way, the annual fee would cover the cost. That way, there's not a discrepancy with everyone.
These poles, specialty poles, or they thing that they use?
Standard poles,
Interpoles.
pole standard lights.
It's gonna tie into the rezoning too. We don't have to really get deep into the streetlights, but I think the question is pertinent that if we're gonna require the developers to pay the entire upfront cost, there may have to be a requirement in the rezoning that they have streetlights, because you're gonna have some developers say, I'm not willing to pay that money, I'm not gonna put them in. So this is not an attempt for the county to do away with streetlights. I think we need them in these neighborhoods, the residents want them, but we gotta figure out a way to fund this so the counties, this is a sinking fund. I mean, even though we're adding to it, if you do the math on it, it's not supporting itself.
Where do we stand? I'm not even sure.
Have to move it.
Move to debate, right?
Yes.
Move to
Yeah,
debate.
yeah, I'm sorry, yes.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Wasn't sure if somebody meant move to debate.
Second.
So move.
Yes, sir. The next item we have for you is Resolution 22-12 to amend Marshall's Place Streetlight District, 1994-322. Staff received a request from a resident to install additional lighting on Prairie Lane due to lack of lighting at Georgia Power. They reevaluated, and Georgia Power recommends adding 2 additional streetlights on poles on Prairie Lane and Prairie Circle. Annual utility cost would be $421.44. The upfront pole cost would be $963. Staff recommends approval.
Move to consent.
Since it's in,
They're already paying the street
they're
light.
already paying the fee.
Correct.
Second.
Next item we have for you is change order number 1 to peak pavement for the Lmeg SAP striping and signage 2021 contract. Mid last year, the county received a $217,000 grant from DOT for striping, signage, upgrading pavement markers on various roads throughout the county. We bid it out. It did not meet the full, it did not come back at the full $217,000. It came in at $208,000, a little over $208,000. If we don't use that $217,000 in full, we have to pay it. So we advertised, we added some additional roads, re-advertised, and brought that number up to $241,157.65. The original contract amount, as you can see, the county's portion was $20,855.96. The new amount would be $24,115.70. What we're asking for is approval of this change order with a difference to the county in the amount of $3,014.14. Staff recommends approval.
Second.
So move.
The next item we have for you is a lighting agreement with Georgia Power for Martinez Park. This is for 2 lighting agreements. One is to replace 4 existing post tops with LED fixtures, and the other agreement is for installing 8 new lights on the newly constructed roadway. The upfront cost is $44,516 with a fixed monthly rate of $295.44 per month. Again, this coincides with a new park being built next to Blanchard Park. Staff recommends approval.
Funding for this
2017.
Part of the project.
Be a bond.
project.
Yep, the ongoing costs be funded out of a general fund.
Move to consent.
Second.
The next item we have is change order number 2 with Reeves Construction for the Savannah Rapids Pavilion parking lot expansion contract. The original survey on this project showed that there was an 1.5-inch water meter, and once the contractor got underway and uncovered the system, they realized it was a 3-inch meter. So because it is a 3-inch meter, the whole system has to be upgraded in that section. Water utility will supply the new meter. However, the contractor will have to upgrade the system and install a new backflow preventer. Staff's requested a quote for this work. Reeves Construction has come back. Change order request of $20,992.76. This will be funded out of the project SPLOST 1116 SPLOST. Staff recommends approval.
Water bill to the county pays the water bill prize fund. Now we'll be,
Tried, but Billy wouldn't ever give us a break, but we tried.
I don't think Stacy is either.
he's fixing to go up because a 3-inch meter surely costs you a whole lot more than an 1.5 inch.
It does.
Just saying,
It costs a lot.
water bill's about to go up.
It was already a 3-inch meter out there. We're putting a new meter in and just putting the backflow in. Is that correct? We're already paying.
So we already
Already
paying,
paying.
he just didn't bill us.
We're
for
having to
it.
relocate.
Okay. All right,
He's billing us.
By the way, you just said your water bill's about to go up. I think it's your water bill too.
I got it.
Move to consent.
Second.
With your permission, I'd like to present these next 2 together. They're similar. One is for a traffic signal application to Gdot for Horizon South Parkway at John Huffman Way. The other is traffic signal application for Blackstone Camp on Ferris Ferry. Both of these signals have been designed and approved through the local office in Tinnell. This is authorizing the chairman to sign the application for both applications to go to Atlanta for final approval. Staff recommends.
All with
The respective projects.
road projects that
And that they've met the warrants,
Yes, they have.
but the Fierce Ferry won't be installed until,
3 years.
And what's the timeline on these?
3 years?
3 years? Yes.
Well, that's the 3 years when the project's over.
Right, you're not gonna do it till the it's
Right.
pointless.
The contractor's working hard on the section from Evans to Locks down to Jones Mill, is that right? He's focusing on that area pretty hard, so to say 3 years, we're not certain on that. It might be earlier,
we could get the traffic
possibly.
as soon as that section is complete, hopefully.
It doesn't have to be the very end of the project when the signal goes up, but we don't have we gave him an end date. Works how he wants to work. Just can't guarantee it'll happen any sooner than 3 years.
Move to consent.
He presented these together. If you're so inclined, would you make motions separately? So do one for,
This is for the first one, and this,
Move John Huffman, Horizon South to,
Second.
so moved.
I say move Blackstone Camp Fierce Ferry Road to consent.
Second.
So moved.
thank you, gentlemen.
Next item we have is a design services contract with Cranston Engineering for William View Parkway intersection improvements. As you know, William View Parkway is experiencing an amount of growth. You had alluded to it earlier that constantly get hammered for not thinking ahead far enough. We're trying to get ahead as fast as we can. This is actually for the design of 3 different intersections. One is at Patriots Park, the main entrance at Patriots Park. The next is from Washington Road up through to Greenbrier Daycare, basically the commercial section from Washington Road west. And the last section is from Clanton Road to Bryant Cove Road for them to assess that corridor. This is for the complete design of the Patriots Park intersection and the Washington Road roadway improvements. The section on Clanton Road to Bryant Cove, this is for them to study that area, do the survey, and do some concept plans for us to review. The total contract amount is for $123,400. It'll take approximately 245 days for them to deliver those plans and or concepts. Staff recommends approval.
Way to expedite that, 245 days.
Shorter than that on the time scale.
Well, we can certainly push as hard as we can, but that's a lot of survey. It's 3 different intersections. It's a lot of survey and a lot of design.
Traffic light is already signs and
Sir. Yep.
but that will not go in. All of this takes place, or
It'll go in ahead of that, yep.
it will go in ahead of that.
Right, yep. And we'll touch on that with the next item.
Sidebar, Sterling brought Mr. Johnson, myself, some information yesterday that's gonna actually impact this project that college explained to you. So I've asked Mr. Sterling to get with Mr. Titus and make sure that everybody's on the same page. Developer looking at some stuff in that area. Wanna make sure that what Mr. Titus does work together, so. The reason it could take a little longer is making sure that everybody's on the same page. Something just to tear it right back out.
Is there widening at Washington Road, Greenbrier Daycare? Because peak times, that is locked down, a lot of accidents because
There will be some widening and restriping of that corridor, that section of roadway.
Move to consent.
Second.
Next item we have is an independent contractor agreement with D. Hare for minor intersection improvements at the entrance Pines for the signal that you were asking about. So staff has already ordered the signal equipment and will install the traffic signal internally. Before we can, one, we're still waiting on some parts for the signal to come in. But two, there are some minor intersection improvements we need. We need to move some curb, we need to widen, do some turn lane widening at the intersection. We reached out to 4 contractors to receive quotes on this. I think the highest was $145,000 or something. D Hair came back with a proposal for $45,080, which we think is absolutely fair. Funded out of the 2017 GEO bond. Staff recommends approval.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved.
The next item is to authorize William Eubank, our pre-construction department manager, as a responsible official or RO with Georgia Environmental Protection Division. This basically gives him the authority to sign permitting documents on behalf of the county. Mr. Schleicher is an RO. Myself am an RO. Steve Exley is an RO. So this is just making improving the efficiency of our division.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved.
Next item is for acceptance of improvements for Crawford Creek South Phase 10. Road, storm, water, sanitary sewer, along with the rights of way and easements associated with these improvements. This one does include a detention pond coming to the county. Approval is contingent on staff. Staff recommends acceptance of all improvements.
Consent.
Second.
Similarly, this is for the acceptance of improvements for Jones Mill Phase 3 to include the road, stormwater, sanitary sewer, along with the rights of way and easements associated with these improvements. This one does have a detention pond, but it will not be county, it will be kept private. Final acceptance.
Way we can, is there any way we can make sure that the homeowners association,
Understand?
they will be taking on this responsibility at some point in time? You change three homeowners association president out down the road, swimming pool in the front lawn, and don't have money to maintain.
Sure. That's something I know we've talked about in the past. That's something that we're certainly interested in working with county management, Mr. Driver, Mr. Fort on. I think that's a very valid point. Start the ball rolling on that.
Move to consent.
FYI, when they do keep these ponds, we do require them to bring us a maintenance agreement. They've all signed off on. How we make sure that they keep that information fresh in new HOA members' minds, I don't know, that's gonna be a difficult part, but we are making them sign agreements. Saying they will maintain their pond and their process they're gonna go through to maintain their pond, so they're very aware day one, but the bigger issue is fourth and fifth president that has no idea because that information was never handed down to them. I don't know how we're gonna combat that.
Then what happens is problem and they're not maintaining their pond, it affects our whole system. We're getting calls because flooded out.
Your water.
I will say that recent MS4 permit change does allow us to now inspect private ponds. We're being proactive now in inspecting these private ponds, where in the past it was private property. We had no authority to go on it and inspect it per our permit. So now we're sending letters to these HOAs, notifying them we see issues. Probably the best way to do it would be to yearly basis, make sure we send letters to the HOA, reminding them that they have a maintenance agreement, they should be following it. And if they follow it from day one, their costs are very low. If they delay it for 10 years, their cost is very high, so.
Great idea. Annual letter and annual reminder.
I think the last item we have for you is for the acceptance of improvements for Whispering Pines, Section 4B and 5B. Road, water, storm, sanitary sewer, along with the rights of way and easements associated with these improvements. And 2 has a pond that will not be deeded. Staff recommends approval.
Move to consent.
Second.
Items, Mr. Driver? Report.
Yes, sir. We've included the year-to-date budget report and the water and sewer construction project reports in your packet for your review, and I'm prepared to answer any questions you may have.
Only question is, when does the master plan due?
This October.
Yes, sir.
All right, any commissioners, public comment? We do have a couple of executive session items where you.
Make a motion, we move them on to the full commission.
Second?
That we are adjourned.
Thank you.